If there's one sub-fandom of FNaF fans I have angered in the past, it's gotta be FNaF fans. I've criticized FNaF Plus character designs, and let's just say, FNaF and I don't see eye to eye on everything, or almost anything. Regardless, I feel I need to reiterate, I do not hate FNaF. I actually really like the guy. He's definitely one of the most committed game devs out there, he just happens to also be committed to the bit. The bit being, pissing people off is funny. And by all means, he's right, and he's good at it. So partially because I want more people to be interested in FNaF Plus, and partially because I find FNaF really entertaining, I decided that the next analog horror series I would be viewing is FNaF's very own set of teasers for FNaF Plus. Although this series doesn't really have a name, I'll be referring to it as FNaF Plus VHS. There are 8 videos on the FNaF Plus YouTube channel, one of them being the B-side to Tape 6, and another being the Steam trailer for the game. For this video, I'll be covering all those videos except for the Steam trailer. I almost didn't review Side B of Episode 6 for multiple reasons. It's mostly a newspaper reveal with some funny words in the description. So, let's start with Tape 1, Connection Error. This video takes the form of a security surveillance video looking over the dining hall from FNaF 1. Through static and flickering lights, it's made clear from the beginning that this is not the bright neon lights of something like Security Breach. And that is actually one of the biggest visual themes throughout, being cheap, broken, and mediocre. I'll be harping on this a lot more later, but for now, let's watch. The camera pans around back and forth for a bit, but at the 40-second mark, it becomes obscured by static. We can hear movement, what sounds like metal clanking, and the camera comes back. It takes some time to readjust and pans back, and there we see him, Bonnie, staring at the camera from the dark. The camera pans with Bonnie in frame, and cuts to static again once he's out of view. It flickers back into its normal view, but after a pan to the right, and we're brought to a screen showing a camera has been disabled in the dining hall. End of Tape 1. Now, not a lot happened in this tape, but I think it does its job as an opener. Something unique to this VHS series is that since we know there's going to be an actual game coming out of it, it's fun to theorize what does and doesn't eventually become a game mechanic. And I think this is one of those fun times. The camera being disabled, I'd be very surprised if this doesn't eventually become a gameplay mechanic, especially with something unusual that we see later. As for the rest of the video, I like it, but there's something off about Bonnie here. As I've said before, FNaF Plus Bonnie is my favorite redesign from this game, but in these stills, he just kind of looks like the actual FNaF 1 Bonnie. I mean, it's clearly not the same model, but in this lighting especially where it's hard to tell the true color of the character, he looks very, very similar. There's not much else I want to say about this other than it's going to be far surpassed by later videos. This one, as it stands, does its job of introducing us to the concept of FNaF Plus, but not in a way that makes it particularly unique. I mean this in the nicest way, but as an advertisement, it's not really giving me anything I can't see in either the actual series or other fan games. And that is something that gets rectified later down the line. Overall, this video is a solid 6 out of 10. It doesn't do anything too bad, and it is tense, but it's also not the greatest thing I've ever witnessed, and I know FNaF can do better. Tape 2 is Routine Check, giving us our first look at Freddy plus Bear in action. We see an introduction to the tape in check number 1, Wake Up. A light shines on Freddy and we see him burst awake. Before we continue, I just want to say I find it so goddamn eerie that Bonnie is there staring directly at the camera for this. It's like he knows the camera's on him, but he's not necessarily being watched. Check number 2 is Look Around, where Freddy does that creepy thing actual animatronics do, where their bodies and heads don't move, but their eyeballs zip about in their robot heads. Only when he's finished with that does he actually move his head, so I guess that's fine, they get a pass. Actually, on this one movement we see him twitch a bit, but only for a split second. It reminds me of Freddy on the FNaF 1 title screen, and how he would glitch out. Pretty fun stuff. Check number 3 is Audience Greeting, which is a recreation of the Showtime animation from the very first FNaF trailer ever. It's really cool seeing this scene recreated. I've said before to friends that I'm worried FNaF's vision of FNaF might overshadow the nature of this being a remake of the first game, but I think I have to admit I'm the fool here. This tape proves it. It's a remake of a cult classic, modernized. Nothing more, nothing less. Well, maybe more. Although this might sound super hopeful, I kinda do want to see a FNaF 2 Plus. Or would that be FNaF Plus 2? I don't know, but FNaF's cooking. Check 4 is Small Talk, where Freddy just makes some small head movements like he's talking to Bonnie or Chica. Speaking of Bonnie, completely obscured in the dark, is once again staring right at the camera. I saw some comments saying it looked like he was moving closer in the 10 seconds he's on screen, but I don't know if this is true or just a trick of the light. I feel like it would be scarier if it were true, but again, I can't really tell. And that brings us to check 5, Friendly Laugh. Freddy closes his eyes and cocks his head back to let out a long laugh. He opens his eyes and the tape pauses, as we actually hear his laugh, long and horrifying, less so than friendly. But one common criticism, it does kinda sound like an edited version of Bowser's laugh from Super Mario 64. I can't tell if this is a coincidence or if it's actually the same sound, but I can't unhear it. Overall, this video did a great job showing off Freddy and more of Bonnie, and gave us a tape that was pretty damn cool. The only thing I can really criticize it for is that the horror element of it can be completely missed unless you're terrified of laughter. It's an 8 out of 10 from me. I tell you, that FNaF 1 trailer reference is fucking great. Tape 3 is Quiet Hours, which, if you're unsure of what that means, it essentially means that the restaurant is open for business, but the animatronics aren't performing right now. We see Freddy doing his little idle animation, pan over and Bonnie's doing the same, as is Chica. We cut a little bit back to being in front of Freddy, whose eyes are now closed but his head facing our camera guy head on. His eyes and mouth flip open, and we pan over to Bonnie, who is now staring at us again looking fucking horrifying. I swear, these videos always come down to Bonnie being the source of my nightmares. But Chica at the least seems to be ignoring us. The camera goes down, end of tape. So admittedly, not a lot of fresh or new content this time around, although this was the first time we saw Chica move around at all. But honestly, that's not really enough to save this tape for me. I'll admit, actually seeing this place in operation is a nice change of pace, especially with how it seems the animatronics aren't afraid of acting strange during the daytime. But there's just no real content here that I find uniquely scary, or uniquely unique. I mean, the Bonnie stare scare, that was in the last video. This one just doesn't do much else. 4 out of 10. Tape 4 is Stage Performance, and this tape is everything Tape 3 wishes it was. It actually shows us a performance. Chica singing the song Follow Me by Bjorn Lin. And I mean, come on. As FNaF fans, we know when a character says the words follow me, it's in reference to our purple friend. I'll briefly go over the lyrics because they are interesting. Follow me, and I'll follow you, and we'll think of a million things we can do. We can go to the store and steal candy and toys, and break into a graveyard and make lots of noise. We can both run away to a tropical land, put our fists in the air and our tools in the sand. We can float out to sea on a ship with big sails, making video films of the dolphins and whales. We let everyone see what the world could be if you just take a chance and you follow me. And this song plays, Chica sings, but during the chorus it seems like she starts to break down. The lights go down, but she keeps singing in a distorted, broken voice. As the curtains close, screaming can be heard. Whether it's in horror or joy, I don't know. And honestly, I couldn't tell you which one I'd be doing. We cut to black and hear the songs beginning once more. Now you might think this video doesn't have any hidden secrets or anything, but certain letters in the subtitles to Chica singing stick out. Some letters are duplicated in a lowercase. The first one is a lowercase t, next is another t, and then a W. That might not mean anything for now, but I should mention that FizzNom's been leaving these little letters in the description of every video. We're piecing together a link. As for the contents of the song itself, I think it's absolutely interesting that FizzNom chose this song. It lines up a lot with the FNaF story, with the kids being lured places supposedly for fun, with one of their favorite characters, only to be killed. I mean, the line, break into a graveyard and make lots of noise, does that not literally describe what happens in most FNaF games? In most of them, we're intruders breaking into the spirit's resting place. Hell, FNaF 2 even makes a point that the reason the animatronics are even coming our way to begin with is because our office is so loud. The episode is also a bit more lax on actual horror, but there is a lot more going on under the surface. Plus, I mean, Follow Me is a pretty good song. 8 out of 10. Tape 5 is actually the only one of these tapes so far to tell me not all the content is going to be appropriate. So if there's any parts of the video you don't see here, it's because I cut them out of fear of being age restricted. Oh, and it's also called Night Mode. The tape starts from the perspective of Foxy. We're seeing quite literally out of his eye holes. He twitches a bit and activates and, okay, wow, this is where it's gonna start to get kinda complex to talk about. We hear Freddy's laugh and Foxy snaps in the direction it came from. He pulls back the curtain to Pirate's Cove and steps forward. His eye patch flips up and we see Freddy's eyes in the darkness staring back. The screen cuts to black and Freddy laughs again. When it comes back, the screen is tinted red and we can hear panicked breathing, wheezy and uneven. Images flash on screen, and god damn it, I have to frame by frame this, don't I? Well, let's do this. We see flashes of the dining hall and a glowing exit sign, a small clip from Chica's song, the exit sign again. We hear what sounds like screaming inside Foxy's head, and then we see a bare endo, what looks to be Chica's head, and Foxy begins sprinting through the hall. We come to this image of what looks to be Foxy's teeth, maybe? It's hard to tell. It could really be anything. I personally think it also kind of looks like candles on a birthday cake, but it's hard, if not impossible, to tell for certain. We see a jar of animatronic eyes, a lever next to a security door, the Celebrate poster in the office, and then there's this head that looks like it could be Freddy's head when the power goes out, back to the exit, and then The puppet. F***ing wow. Foxy keeps sprinting to the exit, and we get this render that appears to be the show stage cam in FNAF 1 with Freddy looking at the camera. We get a flash of Freddy's face in photo negative, then what seems to be part of his jump scare, maybe? We see an empty hall and a body plush sitting in a gift box, Pirate's Cove, and this one screen I really can't tell. This yellow figure makes me believe it's Chica, but it's damn near impossible to make out what's going on. We see a clock with the glass shattered, a more clear version of Bonnie from that first teaser, some drawings on a corkboard, the parts and service room, the exit sign, the puppet, the exit sign, a torn missing persons poster, cut to black with Freddy's laugh. Foxy stops sprinting. It seems like he's reached the exit. He saunters to the door and looks at the exit sign and stops. It's unclear whether or not he leaves. And this... Okay, let me be clear. Of these first 5 tapes, this is my favorite. This just also happens to be the first time in a while I've had to sift frame by frame. Now, I do think I got it all, but it's hard to tell for certain. There's a lot to look back on when it comes to these frames. First and foremost of all is the inclusion of the puppet. Of course, the puppet was never seen in FNAF 1, but based on FNAF 2's cutscenes, the puppet was in the restaurant. Other things we see here, like the office door and celebrate poster, we do see in episode 6, but also much more clearly and predominantly on FNAF Plus's Steam page. There's something else about this video that I don't see many people bring up, and it's the Bonnie in a gift box. This frame seems to imply that there might be some kind of visible prize counter. Maybe? It's tough not knowing just how much of the actual game these frames are going to be relevant to. Although this is one frame that stuck out to me, if only because it seems to have completely gone unnoticed by some YouTubers. Overall, 9 out of 10. Tape 6 is the big one. If you watch my video covering Spectre Animation's FNAF VHS videos, you'll remember that the third and final tape of that video was a paranormal investigation at Freddy's. This tape, Breaking and Entering, or breaking plus entering, is very much the same. It's about someone breaking into Freddy's to perform an investigation on the robots. In fact, they're very similar in that regard. Both go about it in the style of those reality TV ghost shows. The significant differences between this tape and Spectre's comes down to things like how Spectre's included voice acting and this one doesn't, or how we have some idea of what happened to the main character versus Spectre's they just, well, you know, if you know. In between, however, there are next to no similar beats. The framing is also pretty different. Although we had pretty much one camera concurrently through Spectre's video, this one uses multiple cameras to tell the story. So let's start with the opening. I won't be dissecting this frame by frame like I did the last one, but I will point out secrets if they do appear. The video starts with a camera feed, showing us the restaurant after hours. We see the exit sign and the corkboard with drawings that we saw in flashes in the last video. And on stage, Bonnie and Chica. I don't know if Freddy is on stage or not, the camera isn't long enough to really reveal much. We see a hallway with Freddy's poster on it saying, "Let's party." If I had to guess based on my knowledge of FNAF 1, this is the East Hall corner. And then we cut to parts and service. There's a Freddy suit sitting on the table, slumped over, and several animatronic heads. One of these is a Chica head without her beak, looking pretty damn torn up. I'm pretty sure that this was the head that we saw in the last video. The next thing we see is blackness, before our protagonist's camera turns on. He's right outside Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. He approaches and sees that it's closed, but you can probably guess that that is not going to stop him. After breaking, he enters, and we switch back to our parts and service camera. Through flashes of static, you can catch that there are sentences on screen. I'll be real, this has been solved a while ago, so I'll just read off what's been discovered. Dear employee name, our intern has also already ensured the appropriate replacement of sensitive material related to your mistake. A clean video feed of Cam 1B, the dining hall, will be used as substitute for the missing portion of footage left on tape. We would like to remind you that as current night watchman of the restaurant, you are required to notify us of any documented irregularities during your shift and provide us with the name and timestamp of the footage for prompt review and comfort of our staff. We also value our company property just as much. Please make sure to take the necessary steps to prevent accidents like these from repeating in the future. The cost of repairs and maintenance for Cam 1B will also be deducted from your next paycheck. Thank you, management. So this seems to be an employee memo to the night guard, and they're blaming him for letting Bonnie destroy the camera from that first teaser. The image you're seeing on screen right now was created by Reddit user AcceptableAd5422. I'll be turning to Reddit again later, but continuing on with the teaser, oh boy, we're less than 3 minutes in. We're introduced to the mysteries and tools this cameraman has in mind: a flashlight, a camcorder, and a ghost detector. For mysteries, spelled with an I because this kid is illiterate, we have robots moving at night, behind the pirate's curtain, guards or live bait, this one is very suspicious, and the last one is, what's in that huge box? Buddy, I've got a solid guess, and it's not a mystery we're solving. Step 1, show stage. We switch back to camera feed and, oh come on, reverse audio. I ended up just looking up someone else's reversed audio for this. Credit to Beefy for reversing this. It seems to be a conversation describing the animatronic F, who's generally described as being unstable and shouldn't be touched. Probably Foxy, which would actually explain why the company never fixes him up. Their safety guidelines prohibit employees from even touching him. He's just better left alone. Of course, F could also mean Freddy, but that doesn't really make as much sense to me, since Freddy is clearly at least going under enough regular maintenance to not fall apart. After the backwards conversation, the cameraman walks up to the stage and shines his light on the animatronics. I want to say that this view of them is probably our best view in motion so far. And by that I mean like, in a video. These guys don't move. I just mean it's cool to see how they look in the context of it being a closed down restaurant at night, up close and personal. Bonnie, Freddy, and Chica don't look visibly haunted, just haunting. So our camera guy gets out his patented ghost detector, which seems to be a simple handheld radio. I want to compare this once again to Spectre's paranormal investigation. In that video, when our camera guy busts out the spirit box, it's unnerving, yes, but it's in the hands of a professional at least, and one at least a reasonable enough distance from the animatronics to run away. But this is a kid, most likely a teen, and he's right up next to Chica playing this loud, obnoxious radio. It's downright panic-inducing just how fucked you know this guy is. Eventually, the radio tunes into what some call the theme song of this game. Goodbye to Spring. This actually does seem to be Paranormal Activity since our camera guy can't seem to make the song change without shutting it off. We cut back to the cameras and, oh shit, a sliding bar comes down over where our camera guy broke in, sealing him inside. And at the same time, more hidden text. God damn it. I once again look to Reddit because I'm a 20-year-old college student who works a day job on top of being a YouTuber. I don't have time for this shit. Credit to users Skrunklemadunk and Puppetgeist for deciphering this text crawl. It's an excerpt from The Mask of the Red Death by Edgar Allan Poe. I looked through it, trust me, you don't want to read the full thing. It gave me a headache. Poetry is just like that. In this particular excerpt, it describes the light from the windows stopping those who walk in the night, but how they resume their footfalls at the stroke of 12. It's a pretty clear allegory for the way the animatronics start moving at midnight and stop during the day, but it's a lot to unravel. Considering there wasn't any of this stuff in the previous videos, I'm convinced this is FNaF just trolling us now. With the door sealed, we cut back to our camera guy, who's now investigating Pirate's Cove. He steps up to the stage and shines his light on the purple curtains. There's a sign for the day's showtime, but there's nothing written on it. There probably hasn't been for a while. It's very crusty, even moldy. Speaker's in good shape though. Our camera guy steps up to the stage and stands in front of the curtains for some time, the camera moving up and down a little like he's gathering his breath. He's clearly nervous. Eventually, he reaches out and pulls the curtain back, but there's nothing inside. And that revelation is far worse than if something had been in there, because that means Foxy isn't where he should be. Suddenly, the camera guy's radio glitches out, and his lights shut off. He struggles to get his equipment working again, and we can hear footsteps around him. With the light off and the ghost detector on, we hear Goodbye to Spring come back on, and the light comes back next. Camera guy checks Pirate's Cove once again, still nothing there. That was a really tense moment, but nothing bad has happened yet. We cut to the corner camera from before, and god damn it, more hidden text. I went looking for someone to find this out for me, and all I came up with was a Reddit user named Little Lego Guy. I couldn't find his name actually typed out, only spoken about, so I apologize in case there's any underscores or anything that I have missed. Essentially, it's a list of routines that Freddy's computer system goes through, with the obvious red flag being that the system that's failed being safety protocols. Those don't seem that necessary anyway, but also multiple times the holidays are mentioned, including holiday outfits, so maybe we might see Freddy in a Santa suit. I don't know. Regardless, our camera guy has now reached the security office. He walks down the hall and what do you know? More hidden text. Luckily, this text is legible enough that I could actually read it myself, going frame by frame, but then I came across a different issue. It seemed like a conversation, but it was out of order, so I tried my damnedest to clean it up into what I think the correct order is. So here it goes. Don't worry, I'm from here. You won't get into any trouble. The party is over. Mommy's going home. I need to find her. Do you know when she'll take you back here? I don't know. Do you really want to go home? I don't. What about you? I do. But don't you want to watch them sing one more time? I want to see that. But they aren't moving. Not right now. They will move later. Sometimes I wake up during the night and watch them run around. Wow, do you stay over all the time? I used to, but not anymore. We can play games together, like hide and seek. That sounds fun. It is fun, but I need your help for this. What should I do? Follow me. Now, not all of it fits together perfectly, but I feel like I can confidently say this is at least 70% the right order, maybe? Not like it matters all that much, this is very clearly William Afton luring a child away, with promises of watching the animatronics move around after hours. He says he used to watch them do that after dark, but he doesn't anymore. But we know it's gotta be William because of the phrase "follow me." It's kinda his whole catchphrase. Oh, and also Foxy's in the hallway, I forgot to mention that part. We finally cut to our cameraman in the office, snooping around. He gives us a somewhat decent look of the space with his flashlight and looks all around, showing off the poster, the doors, the pulsating ghost detector, the Foxy. We hear girls giggling and then cut to the breathing of our camera guy running down the hall for his life. He closes the door on the parts and service room to catch his breath. He is fucked with a capital. He turns and shows the endo parts and empty heads and chests lying around, and then turns to see the Freddy suit on the table. He stumbles back a bit when he realizes what I'm sure many of you have already realized. Those are eyes pouring out the front of the mask. Whatever night guard was here tonight, it looks like the animatronics have already won. The camera goes silent, and we hear what sounds like cracking. It seems like the camera guy tried to get closer and examine it, but the suit and body ends up falling on top of him. He gets up and the head is on the ground. It seems in the stuffing process, our guard ended up decapitated. The ghost detector goes off once again with goodbye to spring. Between static flashes, all the heads in the room turn to look at the camera guy, while the song begins to distort and break down. And no, there's no hidden messages when the lyrics briefly change to red. I checked. Call me crazy at this point, but I think by now FNaF knew everyone would be completely neurotic about looking for messages in this video, that at this point he was doing it to mess with us. The door slowly opens and we see Foxy standing behind it. The camera guy rushes to slam it shut, but now Foxy's pounding on the door. As our camera guy has his back against the door, we see different images from throughout the series flash by. The barred up entrance, a quick flash of those teeth or candles from before, one of the halls, quick flash of Bonnie's face, the show stage, quick flash of Chica's face, the West Hall corner, with the poster recreating the image from FNaF 1 of Freddy ripping the top half of his head off his body, a flash of Freddy's face. Then we're back in parts and service, the banging only getting stronger. Eventually, it's strong enough to push our protagonist forward, who seems to trip and fall. He looks back around, as the door swings open, but Foxy's not there anymore. The lights flicker, and you can briefly see the puppet in flashes of light fade to black. When the feed comes back, we can see Foxy idle in the room before disappearing. Cut to black. And wow, holy shit, this episode was far more of an actual analog horror video than any of the other videos thus far. In fact, it straight up crosses into found footage at times. It's by far the scariest, most secret-packed, and most narrative. I didn't mention this during the review of the video, but if you actually take the time to brighten up certain parts of it, you can see that our camera guy was being stalked by Foxy pretty much the whole time, hiding behind Bonnie or in the dining room, always blending into the darkness. It's exactly like those older FNaF teaser images where you needed to brighten the image to reveal Springtrap or Nightmare Yone. And wow, this video is sublime. It breaks the scale really, but the highest I can go without breaking the laws of nature is 10 out of 10. I can't really come up with anything glaringly wrong with this video or any possible improvements. But we do have one more video. As I mentioned before, there are certain letters that appear during Chica's song, as well as those others being left in the description for each of the tapes. When combining these letters, people found the YouTube link to a hidden video, Tape 6B, Help Wanted. And no, this does not tie back into the Steel Wool game, I think. I'd be surprised if it did. There isn't very much to this video. It's a reveal of the newspaper ad from the beginning of the game. I know there's probably some developer message hidden in the blurry newspaper text outside of it, but I really can't tell. Most of the action actually happens in the description of the video, and I quote, "Local pizzeria at the center of controversy yet again. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is back in the public eye this year, but not for the reasons they had hoped, as the small business was dragged into a torrent of anger and suspicion due to alleged ties to the disappearance of a local high school student on October 9th. The young teen, known to friends as a hobbyist filmmaker and described by some as a quiet but well-mannered soul, was reported missing the morning after leaving home to meet up with someone for a new project that, according to family, involved the restaurant's infamous string of incidents and general dark reputation. When pressed for comment, an intern at the establishment stated, "We really had nothing to do with it. Our surveillance cameras showed no one entering or leaving the restaurant during that night," an answer that did nothing but grow more suspicion, as access to the aforementioned footage was immediately denied to the public. Town residents were further outraged the following week as they found multiple job flyers for the restaurant being left at their doorsteps. So this confirms a couple things for us. The first being that the character we followed in Tape 6 was a teenager and is most likely dead. As for how he died or what happened to his body, it's unclear. Some have theorized he goes on to possess Foxy, since Tape 5 seems to be about Foxy coming to life for the first time, and the images on screen seem to be memories of that same person. Now, while I think this theory is probably the correct one, it does make me wonder what was up with Foxy during Tape 6. He was clearly being aggressive. Does that mean he was already possessed? Was he not? Was he under the puppet's control, or Afton's? Let's say he's not possessing Foxy. What happened to him then? But one thing's for certain. Fazbear Entertainment knows, but they won't say anything at all. This video isn't much but a teaser, and offers a unique light on a side of the story we saw very little of in FNaF 1. 7 out of 10. Well, there we have it. All the teaser videos broken down. I'll admit it took a bit for the series to really get going, but FNaF really beat those can't do analog horror allegations with Tape 6. Honestly, the best part about a series like this is knowing that anything it doesn't show us, it's most likely holding back so it doesn't spoil the actual game. It's clear there's more to FNaF Plus than meets the eye so far, and it's easily one of my most anticipated releases of 2023. Seriously though, this game has the potential to make real waves in the horror scene once again. Maybe not at the level of the Dead Space or Silent Hill 2 remakes, but I mean, let's just say 2023 is a good year for people who want to replay their favorite horror games with a fresh new look. As for any FNaF or FNaF Plus fans out there I may have offended with some of my snide commentary, I just want to say, don't take everything I said here literally. It's all just my opinions and observations, and I won't get everything right. And if FNaF is watching this, hi, you did good. Want to play Among Us? That's gonna be it from me this time. I hope you enjoyed. Although I should admit something, these analog horror series do crazy for views, and I don't really plan to stop making them, but it'll probably be a bit before I tackle my next big one. I want to expand to not just FNaF content, but all around analog horror. Gemini Home Entertainment, the Mandela Catalog, Local 58, etc. And of course, I want to cover the Walton Files. That's been a big one for me forever now. But that series is so huge, I'd probably end up covering the first 2 videos in one episode, and episode 3 in another. Let me know what you guys think of this. Keep in mind, it'll be a bit before any of this stuff comes out. Until next time, I'm DMuted. Be sure to like and subscribe, and share this video around. Peace.